first sort of piece of Disney news is the fact that Disney announced, I believe on Wednesday or Thursday, one of those days, actually February 27th, I'm looking at the article right now, Disney announced plans to make this park better. I can never remember the name of this park for the life of me. Walt Disney Studios Park.
Walt Disney Studios.
Disney has announced that they are going to be expanding this park greatly. They are adding three new lands, and I think they're adding on to their sort of mini Toy Story land that they already have. So we're going to get started with the first, well, I guess the most interesting part of the expansion, at least for me, which is the Marvel Land that they are planning on introducing. Now, I guess right off the bat I should say this sort of marks the end, or I guess the death, of the Backlot Studios theme for a park, at least in Disney parks, because they're already mix and matching in Hollywood studios. It's not much of a recording, not really recording, what's the word I'm looking for? Backlot park, I guess that's the word I'm looking for. It's not really a backlot studio tour slash park anymore. They're just transitioning it to sort of live out your favorite movies like in real life, which is kind of sad. I mean, I've never really been a fan of the whole backlot theme. I mean, Universal does a good job, I guess. I haven't been to Universal in a while, but I can tell by the looks of the befores and after of Walt Disney Studios Park that this park really needs this expansion, because it is just a bland park that does not have a lot going for it. Now, one thing I do want to point out is that from the first piece of concept art that they have released, it shows that Tower of Terror is not changing to Mission Breakout, which I find sort of interesting, but also kind of suspicious, because the Tower of Terror, as you can see in the picture right here, is literally right next to the Marvel land that they're going to be building, and it doesn't really, at least for me, it doesn't really make sense to have the Tower of Terror right next to the Marvel land when they can just retheme it to Mission Breakout, which, I mean, at this point, I'd be fine with them retheming the Tower of Terror to Mission Breakout. It's worked decently here in DCA, and at least here in the Walt Disney Studios Park, it'll be, I guess, right next to its home with the Marvel Land. In California Adventure, it sticks out like a sore thumb just because there aren't any other official Marvel-branded attractions around it. But, Alex, what are your first initial thoughts on the Marvel Land they are adding to Walt Disney Studios Park in Paris?
Well, I think that it's a good idea that they definitely expand on having Marvel properties in that park. That park definitely seems like kind of a blank canvas in which to add stuff to it. And as much as I'm not really a fan of Marvel stuff, I do have to say that that's what people want. They want to have these kinds of experiences at that park, and so I think it's actually a good idea for them. And from what I understand, the project is kind of like a re-skinning of what's already there in that part of the park. So anyway, I think it's kind of a smart idea to have that. So that's my thoughts on it, at least.
Yeah, I believe they're reskinning the Aerosmith Rock and Roller Coaster attraction to an Iron Man attraction, and I think from the concept art, it looks like they're adding the Ant-Man and the Wasp attraction that I think they announced for Hong Kong, or maybe it was Tokyo. It was one of those other Disney parks. But like Alex said, this whole part of the park, or I guess part of the expansion, is just basically a lot of reskins to already existing attractions. I don't have any befores and afters to bring up, but yeah, I mean, I'm glad that they're adding Marvel to the land, and it's not really intruding on anything else. I mean, I'm sure people who regularly visit this park would be happy to have a Marvel land just to have that something else to do. But yeah, I still think the Tower of Terror looks really suspicious, just sitting on its own, really right in the middle of nowhere. I mean, Tower of Terror sits right next to Marvel Land, and then there's the entrance right here, of course. So I'm still really suspicious as to what they're going to be doing with Tower of Terror. But I should point out that this is only possible because Disney recently bought out, well, not really bought out, they finally fully acquired the Disneyland Paris park, because it was previously owned by a lot of different, I guess, smaller companies, but Disney finally bought out the entire, I guess, park or parks sometime last year. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the second sort of area. There we go. Now, they are adding, it looks like a mini Galaxy's Edge up here. Now it's interesting because I don't see the Millennium Falcon anywhere to be seen. I do see an X-Wing, but I'm not sure if they're going to have the Millennium Falcon attraction. I'm sure people are going to be way more excited for the Marvel Land or for even the Frozen Land than for the Galaxy's Edge, since Disneyland and Walt Disney World are going to be getting Galaxy's Edge before Paris, and this does look like a scaled down version, at least in the concept art. I should have said right off the bat to keep in mind that this is just concept art, and I believe it's the first piece of concept art that they've released for this. Yeah, Alex, what do you think about them adding a mini? It really does look like a miniature Galaxy's Edge up in the top left corner.
I'm sorry, you're cutting out.
I said, what do you think about Disney adding a sort of mini Galaxy's Edge up in the top left corner?
Oh, yes. I think that well, I don't really know that it really fits in that park, but I guess if the park is really kind of like a studios park, I guess they could go with the excuse that, it's kind of like you're walking into a set for Star Wars or something. So I guess it works out that way. And as for it being a mini land, I'm probably sure that's because they don't have very much space there to expand on having a full-size Star Wars land. But I think I suppose that my overall thoughts would be that it's a good idea once again, because that park has nothing in it and nothing going for it, and so I guess they want to expand it and make it into this full day kind of theme park where you can spend your full day there and really have something to do. So if that helps, then I say that's great.
Yeah, I feel like before this expansion, well, I guess currently this park to me is sort of a quarter-day park. It really does not look good. If you look at images from the park today, it just doesn't look good, guys. Trust me, just don't even look at the pictures. Just take my word for it. The park is a mess. Now, we're going to move on to the more interesting part of the expansion, which is a Frozen-themed land. Now, in all my days, I would never think to add a Frozen-themed land in a backlot-themed park. I understand Star Wars, I understand Marvel, I understand Toy Story, but I don't understand Frozen. I guess people enjoy Frozen, which is interesting because Frozen came out what feels like 10 years ago. I'm sure that's not near correct, but it does feel like a long time since Frozen came out. Alex, I already know what you're going to say. What are your thoughts on the Frozen land they are adding to Walt Disney Studios Park?
Oh, you already know what I'm going to say, huh? Well, we'll see about that. No, you're probably going to be right. I don't like Frozen at all, and I think the movie is really terrible. but I kind of saw this coming. I kind of saw that Frozen would eventually have its own land somewhere, sometime.
Mm.
Um, and but I guess it fits into what I was saying before with, that's what people really want, and I guess it's not hurting anything being in that park. I mean, it's not like that park has a big reputation to keep up or something.
Mm.
I mean, like, if it were like another park like Disneyland, Disneyland has a reputation to keep up, and so I suppose it's not doing any harm being in that park.
Yeah, and plus since this whole area that Frozen and the Marvel Land, not Marvel Land, Star Wars Land are taking up is basically, there was nothing there before, I believe, probably just backstage areas, but there wasn't like any attractions in that area. And the also sort of major thing that they're adding to this park is this huge lake right in the middle. Let's see. I should also mention that Disney plans on sort of rolling this out in phases beginning in 2021. Yeah, the new lake will be the focal point for entertainment experiences and will also connect each of the new park areas. But the one thing I sort of can't get my head around, let me get back to it, is sort of this long strip of what looks like nothing. It just looks like a long walkway. I'm wondering what that is going to be. I mean, they could maybe have shops there, but it just looks like a long just road that leads to the lake. Then you have to walk around the lake to get to Frozen Land, and then you have to walk this way from the lake to get to Galaxy's Edge. It just looks like a waste of space. I mean, I'm sure there's nothing that they could have done, but that's just something that I felt was worthy to be pointed out. Other than that, I think that's it from the expansions. I know that they're adding, let me get to a close-up. I know that they're adding the sort of alien swirl saucers down here in I guess it's like a mini Toy Story Land. They're adding the alien swirl saucer thingamabobs from the Florida. But I think that's basically it for this expansion. Overall, I mean, before I had no interest in visiting this park. Even if I was able to visit this park, I probably wouldn't. I'd skip it. But now that they're adding, I'm interested to see what they're going to do with the Frozen Land, because as you guys can see in the background, there's a huge mountain. It kind of reminds me of the Matterhorn. I'm wondering if they're gonna be adding a roller coaster, or I don't know. It's really anybody's guess, but I'm really excited to see what they're going to be doing with the Frozen Land and also the Marvel Land, because we already basically know what's going to be going on with Galaxy's Edge. We have the Millennium Falcon attraction, although the Millennium Falcon seems to be absent from this concept art. But other than that, I'm really excited to see what direction they're going to be taking this park in the next couple of years.
Yeah, and there's one last thing I wanted to say, which is that lake, I have a feeling, is going to be a place where they're going to host some kind of water show. I mean, as you know, they're doing that to Animal Kingdom in Florida. So, I think the idea of having a water show has really helped Disney, because it's cheap, basically. Once you build it, you don't really have to spend any more money on it. As opposed to a fireworks show, which you pay for every single time you do a show. So yeah, I think we can expect a water type nighttime spectacular show to happen on that lake.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for water nighttime shows. I love World of Color. Yeah, again, like I said, I'm excited to see where they're. I'm excited to see the new direction this park is going to be taking. Let's see. Techworth101 says Frozen was a fad. Most people look back on it and cringe. I am one of those people that looks back on it and cringes. Why couldn't they have built a Tangled Land instead of the Frozen Land? I feel like that's just me. I would rather have a Tangled Land than a Frozen Land. Oh my gosh, there are so many things in chat. Jake says keep Tower of Terror, but Vetter, I believe I pronounced that right, says change Tower of Terror. So we got a sort of conflicting ideals in the chat right now. Swagford95 says Mission Breakout is fantastic. I'd have to agree that Mission Breakout is a really great attraction. I just wish it didn't replace some might say even greater attraction before it. Hey there, Mountaineers. I hope you enjoyed this short excerpt from the recent podcast, and if you guys did, be sure to check in the description for the link to the full podcast so you guys can listen to it while you guys are doing laundry or taking a long drive or whatever. It doesn't matter when you listen to it, but make sure you guys go support me on Patreon and go check out Alex the Historian's channel too, because he makes some really great content, and be sure to support him too, because without him there would be no Matterhorn Mondays. And tune in next week for a brand new episode of Historyland, and on that note, have a great big beautiful tomorrow.